my end of the screen. Okay, with that going, let's see, is it now included in the mix? This is like 13 people I know are watching from home that are not seeing this. Okay. Yes, now we're broadcasting on Traffic Services YouTube. Whew. Okay.
You did it.
I fixed.
Great job.
The world is now better. I've got a bunch of questions coming in, or a couple of statements. So Ed has a question that's coming in from TikTok. So is Alan Hugo. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I'm trying. Let's see here. We've got Zach with a question, and I'm just shouting out to you because I'm going to come back. I'm just flagging all your questions because as questions come in, it scrolls up, and then I miss you. Then Ryan's got a question. Cool. See, Big Jeff Fresh just said that it's not showing up on YouTube, and I figured it out before you told me. But thank you. I appreciate you keeping. I appreciate you letting me know. And I should have taken this as a hint when I didn't. When I couldn't link to the live this morning, but see, it didn't work. It didn't filter through. All right, let's. What's this? Can you tell us a funny story about a dumb criminal? There's so many. No, I shouldn't call them dumb. That's box, well. I like, well, okay, we'll talk about this in a second. So first, let's talk about Ed's question. Ed from Canada, because he has a Canadian flag, or Ed who supports Canada, or just Ed. What's the charge for driving alone with a G1? Oddly enough, we were talking about this before we went live. The simple one is there's a charge under the Highway Traffic Act that says, it's called G1 drive unaccompanied. That's the simple charge. But wait, there's more. There's so much more. And we can go into this, and I love this. This is one of my favorite questions, I have to tell you, because you've got the simple charge, and people think that's where it ends. It's a simple violation. Well, that violation comes with a 30-day suspension on your first conviction. The second conviction, 90 days. The third conviction, and it's not just this. It's not do this one thing 3 times. It's any violation on escalating measures, right? So the third time you have a condition violation, you're kicked out of the driver's program. So if you were, 7 months, 20 days, and you were just counting down to get your G2, no, that is not happening because you get kicked out and you start all over again.
Yesterday, I had a G1 day. I don't know what happened, but so many people I stopped were G1 driving alone. I don't even know where to begin. 2 of them were stunt driving, 134 and an 80. 119 and a 70. And the 119 and a 70 was suspended, had been suspended for 8 years, was still driving, was on a prohibited portion of the roadway, was alone. The same goes for the individual before that. We can't make this stuff up. I was shocked. Everybody I stopped seemed to be G1 alone. I couldn't believe it.
There's no excuse for this. Well, no, there's no excuse. There's no realm where this is acceptable behavior. Mm-hmm. You're not a licensed driver. You have a learner's permit. Your insurance doesn't cover you. And the person who makes that vehicle available to you is responsible. They can be charged and will be charged under the Highway Traffic Act for allowing someone to drive in contravention of a condition. They're responsible for that vehicle, and letting you drive, it's the same as letting an unlicensed driver drive. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, insurance companies don't really care to insure drivers with a G1. See, because there's a condition that says they have to be with a G2, with a fully qualified driver who has their G and 4 years experience. So what does that mean? It means that if they crash the car, you, the owner, don't get your insurance coverage for that crash. Your insurance will cover the other people that they injure, and your rates will still go up, but your car is not getting fixed. Yeah. So happy days. What else? If some people get smart, they say, well, I didn't actually loan it to him. He just took the keys. Okay, fine. So now the G1 driver is eligible for criminal charges for take vehicle without consent. It's a different story.
Yeah, and it's a shame when people don't know, because the driver I stopped yesterday for stunt driving actually worked as a mechanic and was in a customer's car. So that customer's car was impounded for 2 weeks, and the additional suspension was on top of already multiple suspensions that were imposed. place.
Oh yeah,
It's crazy.
because they get the night. So you get a 30-day suspension for the stunt. You get another 30 or 90-day suspension for the violation. On conviction for stunt, you're looking at you get a 1 to 3 year conviction on your first conviction, a 3 to 10 year suspension on your second conviction, an indefinite lifetime ban for driving on your third conviction. There's a lot of serious stuff going on here, and it's funny how they're all tied together. And this person was just a G1, not even licensed for the road.
Yeah, it's the only day I've had in the last year where I kept running into G1. I just had to sit back and go, what is going on here? Everybody I ran into is G1
during the
alum.
pandemic, there were complaints that, I can't get a test even if I want to, so life goes on. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and it wasn't okay then. But at least you could sort of get behind the desperation. Not acceptable, but you could sort of understand to some degree where they were coming from. Now it's just lazy.
Yeah.
Now it's just lazy. Okay. Okay, we covered this. But I do like that question. Again, it's my favorite question. And I love that you had a G1 day. That's great.
Oh, it was wild.
Ryan Dow has a huge question. So I'm going to read it before putting it on the screen because it will get cut off if I do that. So my first encounter with a cop 20 years ago was a random stop, less than 1 kilometer from my home. He pretended to smell marijuana and asked to search my car, asking me to move open items. I humored him for a bit, but the search became invasive and I refused. He took my papers and returned from his vehicle half an hour later and apologized for taking so long, as he could not find anything on me. He gave me a ticket for not signing my ownership. Do you view this as a valid use of police resources? I wasn't there. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why he or that officer created the stop. Random stops don't generally happen. We have the ability to pull somebody over. It's not random. It's to check if you have a license, to check if you have insurance, to check if your vehicle is sound, to ensure that you are sober. So, if after that stop started, they smelt marijuana or believed that they smelt marijuana, it depends. These are all, you've got a very layered scenario, and I can't tell you that it is or isn't. Are you required by law to sign your ownership in ink? Yeah, it's a ticket. Have I ever laid it? I don't think so, but usually I just hand someone my pen.
It's technically what validates it.
Yes. So, in terms of I can't say that they didn't do the right thing because maybe they had a very real reason for doing what they did.
Yep.
But people, just because you don't know the real reason under it, maybe you had a vehicle that matched the description and we were looking for things because someone said there was, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know about 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was just graduating high school.
I was not a member 20 years ago. Yes, I was. I joined in 2000.
For a conversation piece for those interested, the Cannabis Control Act of the province does have a search authority for the police. It's the same as the Liquor License Act. If we see, smell signs of cannabis, there is a search authority. The police can search the car and anybody in the car for illicit cannabis. And it happens all the time. It's like liquor. You can have it in the car, but it can't be accessible to the driver. It can't be in its open packaging, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Which is different than a consent search, which is what you've described. So if they had the authority to search your vehicle based on the scent of marijuana, but rather than requiring you to consent to it. So the fact that you stopped consenting, maybe the officer wasn't, maybe it wasn't what you thought it was. In any case, let's see here. If I'm driving a light BX model on the road, will I get stopped? The battery is only 40 kilometer
What is
max
that?
speed. I'm going to assume that is an e-bike. And okay, let's look it up because I need to know more than what you've provided. And that is a light BX 2021. Okay, let's see. Light B. Hey,
looks
it's
like
a
a dirt
Suron.
bike.
It's a Suron. I've had lots of discussions about Suron. I would have accused you of having a username of Oreo because I've had extensive conversations with a chap named Oreo, or whose username is Oreo. So let's see here. First thing I can tell you, it's all electric. I see no functioning pedals. Does yours have functioning pedals? Because functioning pedals is a requirement to being on the road. One.
$6,000 for one of those.
It has a 6,000 watt peak power.
Wow.
So the peak power or the motor maximum to be on the road in Ontario is 500 watts. You've got way more power than
It has 184 foot-pounds of torque, that little thing.
that's insane.
That's like my wife's Hyundai Santa Fe.
Well,
And
look at this
it's like
thing.
a little motorbike.
Well, it is very
Electric bike, sorry.
So let's see here. Well, it is. It's got a. It says rated power 3,000 watts, peak power of 6,000 watts.
Road legal. No.
It very clearly says it's not legal for the road. It looks really cool, but
does
don't
look cool. It
don't
looks
dare
like
get
a
it on the road.
KTM.
And I'll tell you why because that's a motorcycle, and you're going to get charged for drive no insurance, drive no license, drive no registration. You're going to be looking at a fine just for the driving a motor vehicle with no insurance, $5,000 to $25,000 in fines for your first conviction, up to 6 months in jail.
I like the selling features. Impressive power to weight ratio.
It's
You
very
don't
light.
say.
Now it says here net weight is 56 kilos, so its weight allows it to be on the road, but the motor doesn't. And the fact that it is like, what does it say? There's actually a maximum speed listed here, and it says top speed 75 kilometers an hour. So even if it's got a switch on it or a wire that limits it to 32 kilometers, that means it's doing 32 because of a user switch or temporary limiter. If you remove that, it can do 75 kilometers an hour. It says so on the manufacturer's webpage. It is capable of going faster, even if it's not capable of going faster while that little wire is stuck in the little loop. It is absolutely a motorcycle. And just because I think it'll be fun, let's put this on the screen. Light BX. Yeah, I'm not aware of a Suron that is legal other than to be licensed as a motorcycle. Let's see what this looks like. They're silent. They're cool.
Some of the roads in the city kind of look like that. So
Yeah, very, very, very well. No, these look really cool, and I'd love to play with one, but keep it off the road. Yeah, you don't have windshield wipers. Oh, we're gonna see
it's a
even more.
completely off-road video.
Well, yeah, because it's not street legal by their own admission, but it is air cooled, and luckily it has a headlight. But I see no functional pedals as well. So in every aspect, this is illegal. But I am having fun looking at it.
But a neat bike.
No question about it. They make stuff that goes even faster, and we have so many people who take these bikes, any bike, and modify it. We have people who modify 500-watt bikes to go faster, and then we have these multi-thousand watts. One of the Surons is 12 megawatts. At 12.1 megawatts. It's not gigawatts. It's not Back to the Future, but they are unbelievable as to how fast they can go. We get them on the DVP e-bikes.
Yep.
Somebody said he responds with also it's 40 kilometers an hour is stock, and the max I've tried it doesn't go anymore. Well, as soon as you go over 32 kilometers an hour, it's a motorcycle. If you have no pedals, it's a motorcycle. If the motor is installed is capable of 6,000, if more than 500 watts, it's a motorcycle.
I think there's some confusion just because of the electric portion. At the end of the day, what powers it?
Not
A
muscular.
motor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not muscular. And e-bikes are motorcycles. People get really confused. They think, well, it's a bicycle. No, it is a motor vehicle that through the magic of legislation gets the privilege of being considered a bicycle as long as it conforms to certain rules. The rules are 32 kilometers an hour, maximum speed on a flat surface. Pedals must be installed. A motor no more powerful than 500 watts. That's not a 1,000-watt motor that has a limiter on it to 500 watts. It is a motor that was designed to be no more powerful than 500 watts. It cannot be more than 120 kilos in weight, and that is the basic. There's more, but those are the basics for the rules. And that vehicle you've shown already breaks all of the rules, just all of them, in a really cool way. But it's still.
Yeah.
But thank you. I really appreciate you bringing it up because I love looking into these things.
Hot topic in Toronto, electric powered everything.
Well, yeah, and now we
Bikes,
have
scooters,
how about micro mobility?
those like
devices.
enclosed. Yeah,
Those
I
are the
noticed.
micro mobility.
Yeah.
So there's a pilot for micro mobility coming out. We're still looking at to see how it's going to be affecting Toronto. But there's all sorts of vehicles that are not currently legal, by my understanding, that people are just buying and just driving. And you're looking for trouble until there's a law that supports you. You are violating the law and taking.
And technically, it's conveyance, so don't drive it while impaired.
Well,
because
absolutely.
That's another ball of wax.
So it's a motor vehicle, absolutely. Even if you consider it a Bicycle, because of the HTA, under the Criminal Code of Canada, anything other than muscular power is a motor vehicle, which means if you're in an e-bike, an e-kick scooter, a skateboard that's electrically powered, a boogie board, a Segway, like these are all motor vehicles for the purposes of the Criminal Code. You can be arrested for impaired operation if you've been drinking and you're over the legal limit.
And anywhere. Doesn't matter if it's a park, it's if you're not on the road, it's the criminal code says anywhere.
Mowing your lawn while drunk on a riding mower.
When I was in 11 Division, I arrested a gentleman on an e-bike who was doing donuts in a park, smashed.
Well,
And he just thought, I'm on a bike. I'm not, this isn't a car. I'm good to go. Absolutely not. The kids are playing in the playground. You can't be doing donuts here while you're impaired.
well, you shouldn't be doing donuts in the park. Parks have a 20-kilometer-an-hour speed rule, and there's other rules about behavior, but certainly not on a motor vehicle.
Fond memories.
What happens if you don't pay a speeding ticket within the 15 days? This is a good question. These are good questions today. Thank you for asking them. That's Zach, who's coming in from TikTok, and the answer is you have 15 days before you're basically going into collections. 15 days is the time that you have to choose to either pay it or file that you want to have a trial or a first appearance. After that, processing begins to say that you're not contesting it, and they're going to send you a bill saying you owe the money, and it's a finding of guilt. You're not contesting it, and then you owe the money. And if you continue to over a certain period of time after not paying it, not only do you have the conviction registered, but you're also going to go into collections, and you could go into a suspension. I don't know the time frame before your license will be suspended for non-payment, but that's the next step. So a simple $40 ticket for speeding, you don't pay it, conviction gets registered, and you owe the money. Then you don't pay it, and you continue to drive. Eventually, you're going to be considered suspended, and that's
You don't want to have to deal with that.
It's just a silly way to go.
You end up getting into the whirlpool effect where you get a ticket and then you don't deal with it. Then you get suspended. Then you get
A new
stopped.
ticket.
Then you get charged. It becomes expensive. You don't pay it. And it's just a whirlpool effect. Some people get caught in it and can't get out. It's sad.
Well, yeah, because now you get a suspension ticket, which is far greater than the $40 ticket you didn't pay. Now you're into hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, not to mention your insurance has gone up. Like these problems cascade and compound very quickly.
I don't even know if just your insurance goes up. Like your insurance companies now are so strict, they'll yank your policy and then you just become not insurable.
Oh, you have to be going into what's it called, facility, which is incredibly expensive because you have to be able to get insurance somewhere. But I've heard people paying $12,000 a month for insurance. Now, obviously, that's probably not for.
Could you imagine? Oh my
No,
goodness.
no, I just wouldn't drive, and that's the goal. Like, if someone can't drive, if someone can't follow the rules, if someone is dangerous to everybody else on the road, they shouldn't be driving. But then they just choose to ignore it, and more things happen. But a lot of these, and I've mentioned it with the insurance, a lot of these offenses come with potential jail time.
Yeah, the perfect case was a gentleman yesterday. G1 suspended for 8 years, just continues to drive. Now, stunting, he's put himself into a whole realm of something else. But I understand people have to eat and they have a job and they have to work, etc. But take a bus. Don't compound on yourself.
Well, it's. I mean, that's a deep discussion that we can get into about people doing things that they can afford, making good decisions. Don't buy a Rolex if you can't pay for rent. These are important decisions, and sometimes people want what they want, and anyway, it's a deep rabbit hole of things we should probably not get into. Let's see here. Interesting. Thank you, Jeff. Oh, it says replay. If you're talking about like. There, yeah, that's on purpose because this will be. Maybe I should change what it says, but this is the replay of this podcast is available on Apple Podcasts. And yeah, okay, I can appreciate that doesn't necessarily make sense, but now people know it's live because
Here we are.
Here we are. Let's see here. Is Campbell going to add light B to the fleet? I don't think
Inside joke.
Yeah, well, the whole e-bike thing, is he going to order one for traffic services? Probably not. What do we got here? See, things scroll. That's why I flag things. Okay, let's go back to. I got 14 questions in queue. What is this? Alan says, "What can we do when bikers on bicycle are running red lights riding on the sidewalk, etc. Okay, violating the Highway Traffic Act. I thought you meant running red lights, like having red lights mounted on there. I was going somewhere else with equipment. So cyclists cannot ride on the sidewalk if they are 14 years or older in the city of Toronto. Every jurisdiction is going to have different rules, but that's an offense. Running red lights, they're responsible for stopping for red lights and stop signs like any other vehicle on the road. So what can you do? Unfortunately, you as a civilian can't do very much, if anything. You can make a report on our website, tps.ca, and say that we have problems in this area, and you'd like to have police respond and take up more of an enforcement role in that area because of the concern. But it's happening everywhere, and because license plates aren't on bicycles, it's very hard for you to report a specific cyclist. And for us to be able to enforce it, we need to see it happening and then take action.
Yep.
But it is something we're very aware of, and we still prioritize our enforcement efforts on speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving, because those are the big four that lead to serious injury and death. And before anyone says cyclists don't kill anybody, that is absolutely incorrect. We had a collision recently where a cyclist hit another cyclist who then died as a result of those injuries. So cyclists can kill people when they break the law, but it's very rarely spoken about. And then when we do speak about it, the argument is, well, it's not really that, it doesn't happen very often, so we shouldn't talk about it. It happens, and one is too many. There you go. Zach Pereira says, or asks, well, we already talked about this. That was the question about what do we do about 15 days? Okay, we're moving on. And we talked about this one. Boy, I'm double dipping here. And we talked about this one.
I think we hit the G1 as well.
Yeah, it was ed.ca. Okay. What? Oh, because it was, you know why? Occasionally when you ask a question, it repeats it. So I was happy-go-lucky there. Michael says, greetings and salutations to Sean and guest. Okay. Do I need a clear OICP exam to apply for traffic police?
I don't fully understand that.
Well,
I believe the OECP certificate is still a requirement to apply for constable, and then if you get selected, you make your way through the hiring process. You can request at the Ontario Police College with your recruiting staff that you'd like to go to traffic, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't put you there. When I was at OPC, there was a lot of people were getting asked to go to traffic, so you can just request.
There were a lot of people asking?
No, there wasn't. They were asking.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of officers that want to do patrol and have that
I
experience
actually
first.
volunteered to come to traffic because I was already an auxiliary at traffic in the past. I knew I wanted to be here long term, so I asked and I didn't get my request. I was sent to a division. But here's the requirements for becoming a police officer as of the publishing of this video.
I believe we're hiring like hundreds of people.
Oh
too.
yeah, we just put a class of about 150. There's probably another 150 out there,
My class was 136.
and that was a big for them. I think
was
my class
big.
was 80. So it's right now the minimum requirements are Canadian citizen or permanent resident of Canada, 18 years or older, physical and mental ability to perform the duties of the position having regard to your own safety and the safety of members of the public, successfully completed at least 4 years of secondary school education or its equivalent.
There it is there.
Then the
Possess a valid OACP.
no, that's OSSD. Oh, you see it lower. Okay,
In
OSSD.
addition, you must have, yeah.
Let's see here. Then you have good moral character and habits, meaning you're an individual that other people view as being trustworthy and having integrity. If you, that talks about being having education outside. So then you have to have no criminal convictions for which a pardon has not been granted, possess a valid driver's license with no more than 6 accumulated demerit points, permitting you to drive an automobile in Ontario with full driving privileges. That would mean a G license. Now, I've heard of agencies saying that a G2, as long as you are in the process before you get your final job offer, like you have to have your G. That's going to be depending on the service, but a lot of people waiting longer to get their license and don't realize that the impact that could make on your position. Even like, to be a parking enforcement officer, you have to have a license.
Massive plus for those of you that actually want to get hired that are watching is OPC is free now. I had to pay.
How much did you pay?
I don't even want to tell you. I had to pay a lot, and now it's free. It's a sore spot.
No
Because
kidding.
Suddenly it was free.
It's the equivalent to a signing bonus.
Yeah.
Because if you're now not paying, if you don't have to pay $15,000, you're $15,000 ahead of me because I paid $15,000 to go to. No, I didn't pay 50. It was maybe it was 10 grand or something like that. But still, that was out of pocket money. Yeah. Or if you took a loan, it was out of pocket plus interest.
Tons of pluses with Toronto. I'll tell you that because I I spent time applying to other services and worked in and around with other services. Toronto just has so many opportunities because we're so big. There's so much upward movement within the service right now. It was somebody with my time on to be, already in a unit and doing X, Y, and Z and having other opportunities. It wouldn't happen at any other. It just wouldn't happen in any other service.
It's a very different situation. Every service has a different way of doing business. We are a big service. We're the largest municipal service in the country, the second largest service in the country overall. We just do everything. We have a fast paced. You don't get bored here.
Not just that, we're ahead of the curve on so many things: body cameras, the technology, the equipment. We have our own college. I remember when I was with the OPP, how the guys would have to drive, all the way to Aurelia just to do anything. We have our own college here in the city, and it's a good spot, good place to be.
This is definitely a great place, and good people like us. Patting our own back. What else do you have to have since we're reading the list? Current CPR, OACP. So I don't know what the OACP certificate entails anymore, because it used to be physical, and I think physical now is done in-house. I don't know that for sure because, again, I don't know what the deal is here. I'm not a recruiting officer, but you know who is? The recruiting officer is available at tps.ca.
Yeah, it used to be done by, I think it was ATS, the Applicant Testing Services, and the OACP's moved away from them. But you used to go to like a gym at a school with like 500 other people, and you'd sit in the gym and everyone would write. And then you did the physical, which was push-pull, obstacle course, and then the shuttle run, which when I did it was 6.5. They've upped it to
7.
level 7.
So when I became a court officer, it was only 5.5, and then it became then for PC it was 6.5, and I think it was 7.5 for excellent. Now they just met in the middle. Minimum vision 20/40 uncorrected with normal color acuity. In other words, you can't be color blind, which is important. But yeah, if you want more information, go to tps.ca/careers and reach out and speak to a recruiter because they want to talk to you. Absolutely.
I think they put recruiting events on there. You'll be able to see times, dates, locations.
Yeah, and they give out free pens, so if you need pens.
I always need pens.
But in terms of traffic police, and you touched on it already, you become a police officer, you get sent where the service requires more person power, and then when there are opportunities to transition between units become available, that's when you can apply for specialties. Okay, what is Michael asking here? What happened to muscular power skateboards or kick scooters? Now the users of electric scooters and skateboards are too weak for muscular power. Some children have muscular power kicks. E-kick scooters are great, but not legal. Kick scooters are perfectly legal and are still great. They make full-size kick scooters with big bicycle tires, and they're a good way of getting around. What I think is really, have you seen the elliptical scooter?
No.
It's basically an elliptical treadmill-y kind of thing that powers the scooter, and you just walk, and it rolls.
So you're telling me someone could pass me on Bloor Street
Yes.
effectively doing this?
Yep. I'll show you.
But come on. I'd probably burst out laughing.
It's ridiculous looking, but I want one. It's so cool.
It
Yeah.
looks like the kids' ones, they stand and zigzag. My kid had one of those.
Okay. So I'm going to put it on screen for everybody else. Elliptigo.
Elliptico. This is great.
Explore this popular trend. Bryce Whiting is here to tell us how this compares to cycling, and then we're going to test it out for ourselves.
Come on.
It looks like an engineer
I'm
just
excited to try the
decided I'm going to make
electrical
a bike
studies have shown that
overly
when you
complicated.
exercise
Well,
outdoors,
but is that better? I mean, is that maybe it's less impact or
Absolutely.
I don't
You'll
know.
find it super easy to ride. You're going to really have a blast.
I don't know.
Turn some
This is
heads.
hilarious.
You're gonna wanna
But
try again.
it
After you
exists,
ride,
and therefore I should have one. That's talking about junk that you buy that you don't need. Okay. And it's huge. It's a big device, but
Yeah, I know.
whatever. Let's see here. We've got Gord who has a question. Do you ever fine bicycles for lane splitting? So there's no there's no offense of lane splitting. There's careless driving, which cyclists could qualify for, just like a motor vehicle. They don't qualify for stunt, but careless they could be.
Yeah.
So I've never done it.
Careless is a fair. It's a two-parter. So you got driving without due care and attention is kind of part one, and part two is or without reasonable consideration for other people using the road. So is it reasonable that a cyclist would be kind of like zigzagging through traffic? I mean, it could be. It depends on the circumstances, right?
They should stay to the right-hand side. And I will say this: drivers who are approaching a cyclist who is at the right-hand side of the lane have to give a meter clearance to pass that cycle. When they are stopped in traffic, there is no obligation to leave a meter of space so a cyclist can pass them in traffic. And truly, cyclists should be passing vehicles safely on the left, not on the right. So,
Yep.
unless there's a bicycle lane, and that's a different story. But there's a lot of confusion as to what is
Another
safe
hot
and
topic
legal.
in Toronto.
Oh, cycling is a huge topic, and
Huge
people
topic.
don't like it when I talk about it because I call it like it is, and I don't give a benefit to any one group.
I worked in 11 Division before coming to traffic, which has High Park, and High Park is a
hotspot.
hot spot. We used to get stopped by cyclists all the time in the park, in and around the park, questions, conversation, all the time, which is great to have. It got heated. It got heated.
Well, there's a belief that if you're riding a bicycle and making the world a better place by not, contributing to emissions issues and the ozone and just being healthier,
Yep.
then you should be able to get
I
away with a lot
ride
more.
quite a bit on my days off. I love riding. It's just where I ride there's no buildings or paved roads
There are people.
or people.
Which is often that's one of those things. A lot of people I know say they will ride bicycles competitively, but they don't do it anywhere near anybody else because
I'm impressed by those like $20,000 carbon fiber bikes that do. You guys.
that's
are,
not for me.
Yeah. Props to you guys.
Well,
Burn
someone said,
calories for me, please.
yeah, we talked about speeding and excuse me, bicycles are not eligible for speeding tickets, which is really disappointing. And I say that because so many cyclists can go very, very quickly. And I used to live on the bottom of a very, very steep hill, and people would routinely do 60, 70 kilometers an hour down a 40 kilometer an hour stretch, but there was no fine for that. And nor can they be charged for a handheld communication device, which is disappointing because they put lives in jeopardy all the time by riding bicycles while on the phone. But anyway. I will move on. Here's a question from someone who was in the show yesterday but didn't get their answered while they were here. Does my record clear completely after 3 years if I have traffic violations? So,
On the police side of things, no. Your record is always there and visible. If you're convicted of something, that will land in your Ministry of Transportation convictions page. There's 10 convictions per page. I have seen people with like 8 pages long. It's wild to see. But in terms of what your insurance company, that would be your driving abstract, and your convictions stay on your abstract for up to 3 years.
yeah, so there's actually two. There's a full abstract, and then there's a current, which is what insurance companies see, and that's what most people are concerned about. Is it going to affect their insurance rating? And when they look at things, they see the most current 3 years, and yes, your record or an offense is removed after 3 years from the date of conviction. So if you wait 5 years fighting it, it doesn't wait that long, but let's say it took you 5 years after you got a speeding ticket to finally get to court and you were convicted, it would be 3 years from that date. Whereas points only stay on from 2 years from the date of the offense after a conviction is registered. So it's a weird two things that don't align at all, but that's the deal. And again, as Butcher said, it's there forever for the government and the police to see. And in fact, even if you got off a ticket, there's no conviction, we would see the ticket we wrote to you because we keep track of these things. Okay. I see that Stephen was able to make it because his uncle canceled. Why do cops touch the back of a car? You get this question on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah, I think that's more of an American thing. I don't see it here. I don't do it.
No, but I know why they do it. And it's not something we teach here, but it does make sense. So if a vehicle was going to run away, we touch the vehicle in the back to leave a print on there so that if the vehicle is located, there is a piece of evidence, some continuity to say, yes, that is the vehicle I touched and that is the vehicle that I now have. So I can say that it was me who did that, and I can now, when it comes to court, provide additional evidence. Makes sense. But who runs away from nice guys like us? Nobody. Tim says, "Good morning. Good morning to you, Zombie. Good morning. Zombie is late because she was taking care of her car. Oh, taking the car to the shop. Tire has a slow leak. Tires are important. Speaking of tires, how many vehicles are you seeing with winter tires still on their vehicle?
Oh goodness,
I don't understand this. I get it. Tires are expensive, or at least they're not cheap. But if you are driving with winter tires, or if you know someone who's driving with winter tires, give them a shake. Okay, don't touch them because that could be assault, but tell them that they're making a big mistake. Winter tires are not designed for warm weather. They do not work well. People say, well, it's like racing, rubber. Like
Yeah, they wear faster.
and they actually take longer to stop in wet weather. They're meant for snow and icy and cold conditions. It's more temperature than anything else, but they are not designed for warm weather. And you're going to you have the higher potential of becoming involved in a collision because you can't stop at the same stopping distance. It takes longer. And guess who pays attention to these things when collisions occur? We do. We write this stuff down. So if you got into a collision, you rear-ended somebody, and it was preventable because you were, but occurred because you maybe have the wrong tires in your car.
Yeah.
That's going to go against you. And the insurance company looks at these things.
Yeah. The rubber compound of a winter tire is a totally different compound than that of a summer tire. Hard versus soft. When it gets really cold out, winter tire will stay pliable with the road and stay soft, so it can actually be grippy. That's where you see the benefit of winter tires in cold weather is the stopping distance. It's significantly less when you have winter tires on, to your benefit.
Use the right tire for the right job.
We should TM that. Hey?
Trademarked. Can an off-duty cop legally pull you over? The answer is technically yes.
Technically.
We're police officers 24/7 and have a responsibility under the Police Services Act to act as a police officer. There are conditions. I recently had video of a car doing an incredibly dangerous maneuver that actually qualified for criminal charges. But I was in my personal car with my wife and kids in the car. And I was not armed. I was not in uniform. I had no lights. There was no possibility for me to do anything. So what would my responsibility be? Well, call police. However, in this particular situation, I couldn't even get an identifier until I had pulled over and downloaded the video, at which point they were long gone. Can't give chase in my personal vehicle. That would just be a dangerous thing. So did I meet the requirements of what I'm required to do? I believe I did. I did everything I could. And then I reviewed the video, hoping to be able to identify the driver. I checked the rear camera, the front camera, and I saw glare, great glare, but no face. Nothing that I could actually utilize to identify a specific person behind the wheel, and I would have been required to do that. So could I have? Potentially, yes, but it wasn't going to happen.
I think a common misconception is people believe that police officers, I as a Toronto police officer can only do things in the city of Toronto. But the Highway Traffic Act says a police officer, not a police officer of jurisdiction. Right?
And we are sworn in the province of Ontario. We have the powers of arrest anywhere in the province. In terms of going out, even if we were on duty, going out and conducting enforcement in somebody else's backyard doesn't make sense. I'm not going to go to York Region and set up a speed enforcement rig because it just doesn't make sense unless I'm working on a multi-jurisdictional project where we're doing things together. But we don't just, that wasn't the question anyway. Michael earlier when he wanted to know if Sergeant Campbell was getting a B, Suron B, whatever, was for his personal fleet because he has a lot of toys. He often talks about how many snowmobiles and stuff.
I'm not at the point of my career yet where I can get into the big toys. Not yet. Maybe later on when my kids are grown up. I have little ones, so it's not. Not in the
until
cards.
my kids are graduated from university. I'm staying away from buying junk.
I've had muscle cars. I've had so many things. I sold my Camaro SS so my lovely wife could have a basement.
Well, hey, on my way into work today, I was behind an older. It was an old Camaro, and it likely had illegal pipes, but it sounded amazing. And it had body patchwork all over it. It had a gauge cluster on the outside of the hood, so it had some work done to it.
Yeah.
And I would love to own that car with proper pipes.
I told my lovely wife, when your basement is done, a Shelby GT500 is going to be my next one.
Very nice. Yeah. One more thing about that vehicle, I was going to record it. Maybe those will be stuck on my dash cam, but it looked wide and it looked like it had big fat tires in the back. And what I realized immediately was that the tires did not protrude beyond that of the fender. It was legal. And it bugs me as to how many vehicles I see on the road every single day that have, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches outside of the fender. Not only does it look ridiculous, it's unsafe and is eligible for charges.
Usually with the trucks, I don't understand the trend with like the beds kind of squatted. I can't get the angle on the camera here. But then the tires are like paper thin tires on massive wheels that stick way out. I just
the low profile.
Don't get it. It looks good to some.
There's a lot of things I don't get. But the squatting where the rear is lower is actually not legal because you're actually creating a scoop. When you hit pedestrians, you kill them. It's bad. it's very dangerous, and that's why your vehicle should have its plates pulled and you should be off the road. But I'm a big believer that vehicles should be held to a standard when it comes to safety. Oddly enough, as a police officer, that's kind of one of the things we do. So I'm down with that.
I like the brake check question. That's actually a stunt, which is kind of where I focus my efforts on. If you get brake checked intentionally or intentionally brake check somebody and there's a police officer watching it happen, you can get charged with stunt driving.
You can get charged criminally. Dangerous operation.
Yeah.
You're doing that with intent. It is absolutely dangerous to the public around. It could cause not only damage to one vehicle, but it could have caused an enormous, what's the word I'm looking? Domino effect into other vehicles. Yeah. You're putting lives intentionally at risk. You are eligible for a criminal charge. What changes between careless, stunt, or dangerous is the observations of an officer and their interpretations of what they've seen, and they're going to go with the most appropriate charge. But if someone actually brake checks you, that's something where I would be dash camming it if you have one, and if you don't have one, you should buy one because you can get one for $30. You can get one for like $500. You buy what you can afford, but having one, it could be the difference between getting a ticket where you're the person at fault or the person who brake checked you is at fault. Because when we're not there to see it, we rely on that independent evidence, and a video is the best independent evidence.
There's several facets of offenses
I like
that fall into the stunt driving category. It's not, everyone just thinks racing. It's not, if you actually read through the legislation, it's section 172 if you want to Google it. You got brake checking, excessively high speed, racing, hooking left when the lights turn green.
I got video of that. Someone did it in front of me yesterday.
I got a guy a few months ago doing it, like right beside me.
This is what I call a jackrabbit start. Light turns green, and either just before it turns green or just after it turns green, they're already in the intersection. I've got it broken down that it's about a second to a second and a half. That's not enough time. It is not reasonable for traffic to have already started moving within that 1 to 2 seconds, and they jump in front of everybody. It's obviously unsafe, and it is stunt driving. What else? Driving while not in the driver's seat. So ghost car. What's it called? Ghost driving, when you get out of the car and you walk beside it like a moron.
Music video style.
Or if you climb over into the passenger seat because you got a Tesla and you think that's going to be for a funny YouTube video.
Or somebody in the trunk.
Intentional loss of traction. You're doing burnouts, drifting, all those things. Those are all good for stunt driving. There's a ton of ways to trigger it, and all of them come with the wonderful 14-day impound and 30-day suspension. And I think we should be crushing cars or seizing things and selling them to.
And now it's everywhere. They've moved July 2021. They changed legislation and moved it into parking lots. And I get why that would be a sore spot for people because you're not on a highway, you're not around other people, but you can thank the street takeover people for that one because they went into parking lots, started doing burnouts, and people were getting. We've probably all seen the videos. People were getting slammed. The guys doing big donuts. And then they just cream like 7 people go flying off into the distance. And they looked at that. And then you've got the property owners.
Yeah.
Right? The damage to the asphalt getting torn up, poles getting knocked over, etc. They complained, and sure enough, here we are. So the small few always ruin it for the many. And as a massive car guy myself, annoying. Yeah,
Massively massive.
Yeah.
The deal with this, the private property stuff is everyone thinks it's not hurting anybody, but there's so many elements, and whether it be sound, destruction of property, danger. These are criminal. You do stunt driving, and you are putting people in a crowd standing around you at risk. We could go after you for dangerous driving. And that's another one that applies everywhere. But yeah, people get really upset, like, well, what if it's in my backyard? Well, in your backyard, you're putting people at risk. Stunt driving, it's eligible there too. They even went so far as to say, like, on a farmer's field, in a basement, on a roof.
Oh, it's very specific.
They have listed anything and everything, so don't do that. If I kind of missed the 30-minute mark because we were having so much fun. But if you are watching, you don't know who I am. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I talk about traffic safety stuff and things on this wonderful show called Ask a Traffic Cop with Sean Shapiro. It says it on the screen. And joining me in studio is PC Butcher, who's a member of the Vision Zero enforcement team, who does stuff and things out on the road to make people safer, to make the road safer, changing driver behavior one ticket at a time. And we're chatting with you about stuff and things. But if you missed the beginning, know that all these episodes are available on our YouTube channel as well as a podcast. This entire audio and video is made available through Spotify and Apple Podcasts after the show. So I upload it after I download it and then edit it and then put it back up, and it's a thing. Let's see here. A question I saw pop up about 4 driving skills for life. Where'd that question go?
I actually heard you talking about this, and what I was going to call you, but please.
Well, so the question was, do you need a driver's license to try out for driving skills for life? The deal is that even if you got your driver's license, your G1, the morning of, you would be eligible to participate. Now, sadly, it is full. We did such a good job of marketing it that the 324 spots filled up within 4 hours.
What are they using for cars?
Mustangs and some other cars.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, he's cooking with
We're
fire.
Because if you had said Ford Escape,
But there may be some escapes, but they're not for they're not driving they're for different scenarios.
Yeah.
And you got it. This is really cool. Are you a breath tech?
I am not.
That's too bad.
I have had a lot of experience with impaired drivers, but I am not a breath tech on my career list to accomplish, however.
Okay. Well, here's the you're doing Mustangs on a handling course. Does it show what the other one is? There's a great video on YouTube, and I should link to it. But what they do is they add casters to the underside of the Mustang, taking pressure off the rear wheels to induce a loss of traction, which allows people to learn how to steer out of skids and losses. I think he called it understeer, oversteer. I can't remember what he called. There's a podcast episode. If you go to TPS Traffic Jam, the podcast, both on YouTube and all of our platforms, but you can get it on as an individual podcast. We have two different types of podcasts. This is the replay, where what you're seeing right now is being replayed. It's kind of weird. And then there's the actual podcast where we interview guests and talk about stuff and things, and it's a totally different environment where we're not live. In fact, I'm filming 2 episodes of that today. It's going to be a busy day. Let's see. But okay, so the coolest thing about the Ford Driving Skills for Life is that there's an opportunity where we as the police get to talk about impaired driving and distracted driving. The distracted driving element is when they're, I think, in Ford Escapes, and they're asked to drive through a cone course while texting.
Oh, yeah. You watch the cones just go like...
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Could you imagine being the poor guy that has to set them up every run?
Well, I'm
Go
glad
get them?
I'm glad that's not our job. We're going to be actually in the car with you when you're doing this. And then there's another scenario where you wear what I call drunk goggles, but there's actually a technical term or brand name for them, and they're goggles that simulate your vision if you were impaired, which is a scary concept to be at the passenger side. But I'll be there with you sometimes as you go through some of these courses. Yeah, I'm going to be there all weekend. I'm really looking forward to
Tune in
it.
for that one.
Let's see here. What does the background check consist of for parking enforcement? I think this is across the board, regardless of what you are doing as a police member, even if you're joining as an auxiliary volunteer. There is a background check to see if you are who you say you are, to see if you are a person of good moral character, to make sure you have no criminal affiliations. Most of us, depending on when you got hired, police attended all of your neighbors' houses to ask, how's that Billy Joe Bob from down the street?
It happened when I became an auxiliary. They interviewed 2 of my neighbors that lived on my street that I had to provide. Constable's next level. Constable is like, yeah, they go pretty far back. I think they contacted an employer I had like 15 years before.
Well,
it was quite a ways back.
If you're going to make claims in your application, we're going to make sure those claims are valid. We don't want to hire someone who is a bad person, who is someone who is not truthful and forthright. If you're telling us stuff, it better be the truth. And if it's not, you're in trouble because we're not going to hire you. We don't want to find out afterwards. And it's happened. And sometimes we've had people who had a great quiet life, but they were involved with something that didn't come out, and then we find out and either charge them or fire them or both. Some people make claims from anyway, it's a whole different thing. I'm not directly involved, but you hear about rumors all the time and stories. In any case, if you're a good person, you got nothing to worry about.
There's a good one. The
Which one?
insurance one.
Is that this
Can
one?
I drive without insurance if the person next to me is insured?
I think that this is an honest question related to G1 or G2 driving somebody else's car. So in Ontario, cars are insured, not persons. Persons may be listed on a policy, but the insurance doesn't travel with the driver. So if you're driving your own car and you have no insurance, the car's not insured. It doesn't matter if the person next to you has 12 cars and they're all insured.
Yeah.
That's not how insurance works. You buy a car, it must be insured for the road. Anyone who is licensed and qualified to drive that vehicle can drive it, and the vehicle remains insured because it's insured, not the driver.
You'll find that when we stop you, we ask for proof of automobile insurance. I don't ask you for proof of your insurance, right? It's proof that the vehicle's insured. And heavy fines if you don't. I think the minimum is $5,000.
So, and oddly enough, there's two different things. And I remember this from the police college, and I don't know if you had the same experience. So if you demand proof of insurance and someone gives you an insurance card and it's for their vehicle and not the vehicle they're in, that satisfies the $65 ticket requirement, from my understanding. When it comes to, the vehicle being insured, that's a separate investigation. The vehicle still has to be insured. But yeah, people do the darndest things. I've had people give me quotes. I pulled a guy over. He says,
I was thinking about getting
I
insurance.
called TD and here's the quote. I'm like, that's fantastic. Where's the policy? And I will give everyone the best, every opportunity to provide proof. Pull up, how do you pay for your insurance? Great. Show me your bank account just to show me a transaction to an insurance company. Yep. Because if you can't show me any proof and you don't have the card, because really it's the pink slip or an app that tells us that you have insurance, proof of insurance.
Yep.
And that's the $65 thing. But what I'm looking for is finding the people who are faking it. I want to find the people who have no insurance in that vehicle, and then I'm going to charge them for drive no insurance, and then they're going to be looking at the $5,000 to $25,000 and 6 months in jail. And that's where I think a lot of things.
Insurance charges also go to the owner of the motor vehicle.
They do. However, there's been some case law where the person who is in charge of the vehicle could also be, it's my understanding that if you're in charge of the vehicle, you're also responsible for, permitting somebody, like if you are in charge of it and it's not insured and you say, yeah, take this car, and the owner wasn't involved, that person may be responsible as well. Permit. Boom. So we talk, what is this one? Radek wants to know, can a driver withdraw the request for a trial and plead guilty if the court date has already been set? I don't know.
Neither one of us.
No.
Yep. Go to a provincial courthouse, maybe go visit the clerk, see if a JP is available. And
what you're most likely, or you're probably best off to do, is simply have someone, either yourself or someone else, attend on the day of court and plead guilty.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's 11 o'clock. Okay. So no new questions. Isn't it go quickly? Oof. It's amazing how quickly this goes. People say, how do you talk for an hour? It goes by so quickly. It's hard to believe it. Yeah. Because we're talking about stuff we're interested in seeing. We're talking about. Here's a question about e-bikes. This is one of my favorite topics. I always see e-bikes speeding on highways and roads with school zones. How do you guys plan to catch noiseless, non-plated e-bike motorcycles when there is a no chase policy? Well, oddly enough, this no chase policy isn't. There's always a reason to stop people. There's always a way of catching people. We don't have to get into a high-speed pursuit to catch somebody, which is one part of it. We don't want to put people's lives at risk. That's really the intention behind any pursuit. Doesn't matter if it's a car or something else. For a minor offense, we're not going to put lives at risk, even if it's the idiot who's running away from us. But we're playing we're playing chess, not checkers. And, we oddly enough catch a lot of people. These vehicles that you're talking about, well, they qualify as motorcycles and e-bikes at the same time. Until we investigate, we have to verify. We're going to investigate and verify as much as we can. But oddly enough, people do slow down and stop eventually. Just saying. But it is an interesting question. I'd love to see license plates required for all e-bikes. I'd like to see license plates required for all motorcycles or bicycles, but that's just how I roll. Is it illegal is it illegal to drive an ATV, go-kart, et cetera, on low traffic neighborhood roads? It is illegal to drive an ATV, go-kart, et cetera, on low. Those are motor vehicles that are off-road only, whether it be track or truly all-terrain. And unless you're in an environment like a rural area that allows plated, insured ATVs on the road, then the answer is no. And even then you have to be a licensed driver in those conditions. But it's very specific roads and you would know the community you're in. If you're in Toronto, there is no community in Toronto that would allow this. That's it.
Yeah.
Dave, why am I saying Dave? I'm making up a name for you, Ryan. Ryan Dow. See, I traversed the D and R.
That's a long one.
This is the follow-up to which he says, with regards to my earlier question, I filed a complaint, and during the process, I was told the stop was random. Further, if you can believe this, I had pulled off the road into a church parking lot. The cop left his car in neutral and rolled down the hill, jumping a curb and almost went into rush hour traffic. This information was included in the complaint, but there was no consequences for the cop, even though he admitted to having leaving his car in neutral while unoccupied. I was simply told no harm, no foul.
Is this the 20 years ago I got stopped question?
This is the one that had the weed searching inside. I think so.
Right. It was the 20. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. And you know what? It's interesting. I have no good
I don't know
response
what
to
to
that.
tell you, yeah.
Yeah, you know, yeah. And neither of us are supervisors who would be involved with investigations into the conduct of an officer. But that doesn't sound like a real good thing to do. Leave things in neutral.
No.
Just battle around. Question was, would Ford Driving Skills for Life, will they ever come to Ottawa? Good question. I don't know. They're only going to 2 locations this year. They're going to be in Toronto this coming weekend, and the following weekend they're going to be in Edmonton, Alberta. So if you want to meet them there, they'd be happy to see you. There's lots of spaces available. Last I checked, but next year, who knows? Based on the level of interest they saw this year, I would hope they'd come back.
Some of the dad jokes are great that you guys can't see.
Where are they? Where are
Like,
they?
the too tired one was pretty funny.
Let's see here. Where is
Yeah.
it?
I feel like Ricky Bobby, and when I don't know where to look or what to do with my hands, he just kind of goes like this.
Yes.
And like he puts his hands down, then the hands come back up again.
Well, here's that joke. Why did the mechanic stop putting tires on his car halfway through the job? He was too tired. I like
Love
that.
it.
So you have to know that Zombie always provides quality dad jokes.
Great.
I have my dad joke calendar here, August 15th being Tuesday.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yes. The dad joke of the day is, I've decided to quit my job as a personal trainer because the weights are too heavy. I just handed in my 2-week notice.
He actually has a calendar.
My wife gave it to me. That's how it all
That's
started.
great.
This is how it all started. All right. I am sad to say that we must call it quits for the day. But wait. There's a question from Kick. Just giving quick feedback. Oh, okay. Here we go. Just giving quick feedback. I effing like that a show like this exists. It's entertaining and informative. At the same time, helps sensitize a wider range of people for police work, which will hopefully result in mutual trust. Keep it up. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
We're all just people at the end of the day.
That's all it is. People helping people, despite some people thinking that we're just tax collectors. That's a whole other discussion.
Roadside pirate is what I encountered.
Oh, right.
most.
Road pirates, yes. Michael wants to know, is Sean actually going to Ford Driving Skills? I want to go if Toronto Easter exhibition. Okay. I am going to be there. I'm going to be working the event. I'm dealing with the media all day. I'm creating content for us, and I'll be live casting from the event.
When is it again?
This is this Saturday and Sunday.
Ah.
Yeah. It's going to be cool at the Toronto Congress Center. But the event is ridiculously full to the tune of, let's see here. There's over 950 people on the wait list right now, which means they're,
Wild.
and I met a young lady who I had told about the course. She signed up, and then plans changed, and she unregistered. She canceled for the event on the Saturday and was going to try and book up on the Sunday, and to find out that, like, holy moly, it's all booked up. So
Sounds like it's just as hard as getting Taylor Swift tickets
I think
these
so.
days.
We're one of the same. She and I. Yeah. In terms of the traffic song, here it is.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get free. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
It's catchy, isn't it? I love this. We will be back tomorrow, but it'll be not at our regular time, and that is because I will be on location for the 10th annual. I think it's 10th annual Emergency Services Appreciation Day, which is taking place at a Tim Hortons on Keel Street near Steeles. I will post information on all our social medias to promote it, but I'll be there basically from 10:30 till 2:30 tomorrow. So if you're in the area and want to come say hello, more than welcome to say hello, get some donuts and talk to people, and
Bring one of the Visa cars.
bring a VZ car. You see, bring a VZ car.
We have some neat toys.
We do have neat toys. You have neat toys. I can't claim ownership of them. And then what else? Yeah, check us out, subscribe, like, follow, do all that stuff. But definitely, if you're in the area, come by tomorrow. I should have talked about that like an hour ago. But hey,
You got it in.
I got it in. All right, have a great day. Stay safe, drive sober, park legally, and we'll see you when we see you.